Good Saturday morning, everybody, and welcome to Meals with Melissa, where we take, well, slightly unhealthy recipes and we make them a little bit healthier and uncomplicated because, of course, I don't do complicated. So this morning I have a great recipe. As a matter of fact, my family absolutely loved it. The first night that I tried it, because you know I try out all these recipes first. First night that I made it, it was gone. Like, my family just ate it so fast. I do have a sweet tooth, so it's really difficult when you're so low carb all the time to really kind of help that sweet tooth. Now, I'm going to tell you, because I don't eat a lot of sugar, I don't crave sugar, which is good, but I still like sweeter things. Okay, now you can hear all my dogs in the background. Welcome to my house. So what we're making today, super simple. It's not a lot of ingredients. I have a stand mixer and a bowl, and it's really, really simple and doesn't take long to make. Actually, it takes longer to cook in the oven than it does anything else. So we're gonna get right to it. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna preheat my oven to 350. I have just a small loaf pan. Now the recipe says 8x4. This is a 9x4. I find that it's a slightly smaller loaf, but not a big deal. By the way, the great thing about this is you can actually make extra, and you can freeze it in a sealed, seal it up really well in a freezer bag. You can seal it and use it for later on. So if you want to make a double batch, you can do that as well. Now, let me warn you, I know I do this all the time, but it's really important to realize that because we are using a sugar substitute, I tend to use Pure. It's a mix of stevia and erythritol. You can also use Swerve, which is pure erythritol. Be aware that if you eat too much of it at once, you can have digestive distress. So it's really important. And of course, everything within reason, right? Everything within balance. It's important to not overdo it, because it'll just actually make you kind of sick. So first thing I'm going to do is this was the one thing that I had to remember to do, because I'm not very good at following instructions most of the time. Make sure that you set your cream cheese and your butter, your unsalted butter, out and allow them to get to room temperature, or they will not mix well with this recipe. So I'm going to start with 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And like I said, I left it out last night so that it would be room temperature. I also have one made so you can see what it looks like, because I know you're not going to get to see the end product if I didn't. So I'm just going to throw that in a stand mixer. And I'm going to also put in the sugar substitute, which is 3/4 of a cup. So 4 tablespoons of butter. Here, look at it's even, my daughter actually has it labeled. My sugar substitute, 3/4 of a cup. And I'm actually going to mix that on high to get it to incorporate as well as it possibly can. Now, I actually found that I struggled to get everything to really combine really well, so at some point I actually had to take it out and get my hands in there and make sure, especially because we are using almond flour and then the butter, even at room temperature, kind of doesn't really want to mix very well. So I kind of squished it together like I was making dough or pie dough. Meanwhile, while this is going to mix, and it's going to be really loud, so I'm going to tell you what I'm doing first. I actually have 1 1/4 cup of almond flour. And I just get the inexpensive stuff from Walmart. You can get it just about anywhere. You don't even have to go to a health food store anymore. Most grocery stores are actually carrying almond flour, which is great because we use a ton of it. We don't even have regular all-purpose flour in my house any longer, unless we have something specific we're making it for. I'm also to that going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Now I gotta grab my utensils just a sec. Because I'm using this corner, it's just easier with my mixer. I left everything over there. So I'm gonna put 1 teaspoon of baking powder. That's our leavening agent. I'm also gonna add 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, so I got 1/4 teaspoon. Let me grab the salt. Like I said, I left it all over here. It's not the perfect kitchen for what I do, but you know what, it works. You should try it when like 4 or 5 people get in the mix. It gets a little crazy in here. So, okay, so let me add a little bit of the salt. So I'm adding that to the dry ingredients and just mixing that around just a little bit so that it can incorporate a little bit better when I do add the dry ingredients at the end. Okay, so I'm actually gonna mix my mixer, my butter and my sugar substitute on high, and that'll take a second. So my mixer's really super loud. Why? I don't know. Okay, meanwhile, I'm just gonna mix this up just a little bit so the dry ingredients are incorporated. All right, so that's ready to go. Like I said, this is gonna take a second. Almost would be better if your butter is actually a little more softened than just room temperature, because it's really hard for that sugar substitute to do a good job incorporating it. Okay, once that's mixed, I'm actually gonna add 3½ ounces of cream cheese. Now, I use full fat cream cheese. I'm extremely low carb right now, so I do more fats than carbs. again, I'm trying to avoid sugar and carbs. So I need the fats. So I'm gonna throw in 3.5 ounces of cream cheese that's also room temperature so that it can mix. I'm going to add to that 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Like I said, I finally actually have everything here that I need for once. Okay. So add my vanilla to that, and I'm gonna turn it back on high. And give that a second. Now this is where I kind of struggled to get everything to mix together really well. So before I threw in the dry ingredients, actually before I throw in the eggs, I'm actually gonna get in there and I'm gonna squish it together a little bit better so that it actually incorporates. And to that I'm gonna add 4 large eggs and mix in between to make sure that each one of them is incorporated correctly. That mixed pretty good. My butter was just warm enough, so that worked out really, really well. So I'm gonna add 4 eggs, and now that I'm actually looking, they've only left me 3. So here in a second, I'm just gonna literally disappear from the screen and grab one more from my garage. We actually have an extra fridge in our house, primarily because we have so many people living here, and we all food prep, so that's kind of important. So I'm gonna throw in an egg, and I'm gonna turn on the mixer and let it incorporate, and I'm gonna go grab 1 extra egg to have enough for this recipe. So let me turn that on, and literally, I'm gonna be right back. Give me just a sec. Perfect. Okay. So egg 2. Believe it or not, we're almost done. Ready to throw this in the pan. Okay. I'm just going to throw 2 of them in there really quick. So 4 eggs total. And then to that, after this mixes really well, we're gonna add the dry ingredients and then put it in the pan. Like I said, it's super simple. We don't do a whole lot of complicated at my house just because I just don't have time. Maybe for Thanksgiving, but that's about it. All right, turn that puppy back on. Add 1 less egg. Okay. Now, I'm gonna take just a second and scrape the sides down. I wanna make sure all of it makes it in. And as you add the almond flour, it's gonna thicken up just a little bit. So I wanna make sure that it's all incorporated really, really well. All right, so I'm gonna start adding the dry ingredients. I'm not gonna throw the whole thing in all at once because I want it to mix a little bit better than that. I have to be careful, I always make a mess on this one. All right, so just slowly, I'm gonna put about 1/3 of it in, maybe half. Okay, like I said, I always make a mess, so we'll see if we can avoid that. All right, meanwhile, I'm gonna spray my pan. Actually, I think I'm gonna use butter this time. I had a little bit of issues with having it stick last time. I used pan spray, and you can use a little bit of like this, if you have one of those diffusers or whatever, you can use some olive oil in there, which is a great idea. But like I said, I'm doing low carb versus low fat. There's really no true benefit to super low fat because you need the fats in your diet. So I'm just gonna actually use a little bit of butter all over it, because as it melts, then it won't stick as I'm trying to get it out. All right. There you go. I'm actually just going to grab a paper towel and make sure that gets everywhere that I need it. Spread it around just a little bit. All right. So that should be about ready to go in. And then I'll show you what it'll actually look like when it gets done. Let me scrape down the sides. I got a little bit of the almond flour coming up the sides there. So let me scrape it down just a little bit. Okay. Oh, let me put the rest of that in there. Have it mix, and my pan is ready to go. There we go. Mix that in. So far I haven't had a problem with overmixing it. I just mix it till it looks really, really incorporated and kind of a smooth consistency, kind of like cake batter. All right, 1 more scrape down, 1 more mix, and it's ready to go in the pan. There we go. Honestly, it's hard to not eat the dough because even that tastes pretty good, but of course you don't want to do that because it's got raw egg in it. All right, last round. And we're done. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm gonna stick that in my pan. It's totally ready to go. And like I said, it'll be about the consistency of cake batter because, of course, it's pound cake. So, you know, that's what it should look like, right? All right. Now, in order to bake it, I've kind of played with this just a little bit because the first time around it didn't bake as quickly as I thought it would. You're going to put it in an oven at 350 degrees for about 30 to 40 minutes. You definitely can check with a toothpick. The first time around, it took a little bit longer than 40 minutes to bake. So what I recommend actually is that you put it on the middle shelf, move your rack down, put it on the middle shelf, and cook it for about 40 minutes. And if you feel like it's still jiggly in the middle, but the top is completely brown, turn your oven down to about 325 and cook it for about another 10 minutes. But pay attention, you don't want to overcook it. So this is actually what it looks like. Now mine's a little crumbly. I think I cooked it a little longer than anticipated last time. The first time was perfect. Like I said, a little crumbly this time, but it still tastes really, really good. Now, great idea, because it is pound cake, not bread. You could actually make a sugar-free whipped cream. You just use heavy whipping cream and a little bit of liquid stevia. Whip that till it gets thick, and it would taste amazing on this. I've seen some other recipes for a sugar-free kind of whipping cream, but a lot of them contain a lot of extra things I don't really feel like you need. I mean, heavy whipping cream and stevia, liquid stevia is pretty easy, pretty fast, and I've used it before. It tastes great, and it just gives it another extra texture on top of it. So hopefully that gives you some great ideas of things that you can have, especially if you're like me and you have a sweet tooth and you just need some extra stuff in your life, because you know, when you do a little bit lower carb, it is a lifestyle. It's definitely something that you have to get used to. You know, just don't count carbs completely out. It depends on what your goals are. It depends on your genetics. I know that type 2 diabetes runs in my family, so I'm very careful about what I do in the way of carbs. And of course, I have some goals. So I really work towards that, and that's how I design my meal plans. So have an incredible weekend, you guys. If you have any great ideas or want to see something specific, let me know. You know, I get my best ideas from you guys. So until next week, have an incredible one, you guys. Bye-bye now.